What's going on, guys? So in this video, I kind of wanted to be able to help some people out when you're buying a Gargoyle Gecko, just to, really figure out exactly what you need to ask in order to make sure you get the full story, get all the information that you need to make sure that you're making an educated purchase. So I'm gonna jump right into it. So first and foremost, you're gonna be dealing with a breeder. And sometimes, just like any, business, there's good ones, there's bad ones. So I would say one of the most important things is to ask around about that breeder. When you deal with the reptile hobby, it's a very close-knit community. Word travels fast. You'll know if someone has a good or bad reputation just by asking around. So that would definitely be an important thing, is do a little background research on this breeder just to make sure that they are a reputable person that's selling quality animals and doing right by people. Second thing, ask for the Gargoyle Gecko's age, this can really apply to any animal as well. The reason being is because you want to know exactly what you're getting into on how old this animal is, which ties into the third thing, which is weight. The reason this is important is because you want to make sure that this animal is at a healthy age and weight. And if not, then you want that price to reflect that. Sometimes there are animals that take much longer to grow, and it doesn't mean that there's necessarily anything wrong with them. However, if you're looking for, the most healthy animals out there that are gonna have the best size, the best weight, the best growth rates that's gonna pass down to their offspring, then you need to figure out those two factors right there. So always ask about the age. So that way, not only do you know that it's a healthy animal, you know how old it is, how old it still needs to be able to be breeding, that type of stuff. And you need to ask about the weight, just because, it happens if an animal is, 1-2 years old and still, let's just say a gecko is 2 years old and it's still only, 20 grams, doesn't mean that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. However, it could be. Maybe the breeder isn't, giving it the right nutrition or giving it the right attention. But also just know then, if it's taken that long to get to 20 grams, how much longer is it gonna take for it to become a full-size adult? So that's something to consider whenever you're purchasing your gecko. The fourth thing is the lineage and the parents. You really wanna find this out, just because if your intention is to breed it someday, that person that's buying from you should be asking you these same exact questions. So whenever you have an animal that has unknown lineage, it should also affect the price. Just because you don't know exactly where this animal came from, what color the parents or the grandparents were, you don't know any of that stuff. And it's gonna help you provide, it's gonna help provide you better decisions whenever you're going to potentially buy future mates for that. If you want to get two unrelated animals, you definitely want to know. What else the lineage is going to tell you as well is if that animal is worth its price. Just because in gargoyles, sometimes you may hit the lottery with a pair where you have, not as colorful pairing together, and all of a sudden they produce something that looks insane. It's not to downplay that animal. However, you want consistency. You want two really nice parents, ideally, and that make really nice babies. So you want consistency. The two parents that make really nice babies, those babies are gonna be worth more than, it was just, hitting the lottery. These two, not as colorful parents just happen to produce something insane looking out. That baby's not going to be worth as much as the consistent ones. So not only do you want to know the lineage, you want to know the pictures of the parents, and you want to keep track of that, so that way when you go to breed them yourself, you're able to help people out and give them informed, help them make informed decisions on where these animals are coming from. So the lineage is so very important, and making sure that you get parents, the pictures of the parents as well. The fifth thing that you should figure out, which ties into the previous one, are the siblings to that baby, right? Sometimes, people are salesmen, right? They're gonna sell you on the crazy potential of this animal, which is nothing wrong. However, you have to use your own judgment to, decide if it's going to be worth it. The reason this is important is, like I said, any, average pair, if we're just talking about color, can produce something really insane. But if that really insane one is the only insane one and all the other siblings were just average, there's not going to be too much consistency whenever you go to breed that one too, because it still has those, average color genetics inside of it as well. So whenever someone is selling you on that animal, you want to ask for siblings, because of course they can just show, even whenever they're posting one, they might only post pictures of the two other siblings that were really nice too, and then the rest were kind of, not that much color to them. So this is really important for you to know, so that way that you're getting consistent lines. And if they aren't, then you don't want to pay the same price for that animal as you would pay for a consistent, years long worth of really nice babies. The easiest example of this is Deadpool, because it's probably the most popular one, from Tiki's Geckos. You see how all of his babies are very consistent, with the quality, which is going to in turn, whenever you go to breed that one, you're gonna get consistent babies as well. And that's the best thing that you can do, is to have consistent quality babies from a pair. So it's very important to figure out what the siblings look like. There's nothing wrong with buying a really nice one out of, the nicest one out of all the siblings. However, if it came down to my money, I would rather get the least quality one and have all the other siblings amazing, because I'm gonna save a ton of money by not getting the craziest colors, but I know it carries those consistent genetics inside of it. So that's an important thing, to really get as much info as you can, because a lot of times breeders are only going to show you the nicest stuff, and they aren't going to show you, maybe this was the only nice one out of 10 babies. So definitely take that into consideration. And then the sixth thing is, you want to figure out, especially if they have a red base or any type of base, is a fired up and fired down picture. The reason being is because when they fire up or fire down, it can hide certain things that are in the pattern. And this is important because, especially with a red base animal, when they're fired up, sometimes it's hard to tell what is the actual true pattern of that animal. I have a red base female. When she's fired down, there's barely any actual red pattern at all. It's almost fully base. So this is important, because if I'm just showing you the pictures of her fired up, you can't tell that she doesn't have much of a pattern. And at the end of the day, the pattern is worth more than a base, so you're gonna wanna pay more for the pattern than you would just for a red base. The base definitely can help increase the value. However, make sure to get both of those pictures, a fired up, a fired down, so that way you can see truly what you're working with, just because most of the price is going to be affected by that pattern as well. So with all those 6 things right there, not everything can, honestly be provided 100% of the time. I feel like realistically it should be provided 100% of the time. There's no excuse that a breeder shouldn't be able to get you that type of information. But this is very important and something to consider. If someone is, withholding certain information from you, or just saying, oh, I don't have the lineage, oh, I don't have any pictures of anything else, that would honestly raise a few red flags to me, and probably make it not worth spending the money, just knowing that I can go to someone else and they can provide me with all that information. So it's very important to do as much due diligence as possible when purchasing an animal, whether that animal is $100 or $2,000. You know, no matter what, you want to ask as many questions as possible. And if someone gets annoyed with you asking those questions just because you're taking more of their time and you're trying to be thorough, then at the end of the day, you should probably question their intention as well if they're getting annoyed with someone that's wanting to give them a few $100s and is, you know, not even willing to spend the time to answer those questions. So just a little, you know, tips, tricks to help you guys out to make sure that whenever you do purchase a gargoyle gecko, or I mean, this could probably apply to any animal in general, that you know 100% what you're getting into. That's going to make sure that you're getting the best value as possible, because the gargoyle geckos, just like any other, you know, piece of art, the value of them is perceived. It's whatever someone is wanting to spend and willing to spend on that animal. So that's important, because it's not just like you can put some gold on a scale and judging by the weight, it's going to be worth the same, whether that's, you know, here or across the world or wherever, right? The same, it's going to be the same price. With animals, you treat them like art. They're a little bit different. It's whatever someone's willing to pay for that. So there's really not like a specific guide to go along to know if it's worth this amount of money, if it's not. But the more questions you ask, the more you can start putting that puzzle together in your head to really justify that price for that animal. So I hope this definitely helps someone out there that is wanting to get into them and is not really too sure about where to start, just because, especially at the beginning, most of the time we don't have much experience about any of these questions to ask. So it's really important. And a shout out for this week goes to Gargoyle Queen Reptiles. I don't have a personal relationship or anything like that with her. However, she is where I purchased my first gecko. And I think in terms of, you know, especially with her having such a large collection, she's so thorough with her animals. She tracks everything. She, you know, takes records of everything. At least when I purchased my gecko, I got the record of the growth rate and everything since it was born, which is something that it takes a lot of time to really track, especially when you have a ton of animals. So I really think that she's a quality breeder and a great example of, you know, whatever you buy something from her, you're gonna get all these questions answered. Plus, you know that you're getting a good value with any of her animals. So that's the shout out for the week. As always, I appreciate your guys' support. I do have a few things planned for this year in terms of the videos and social media and that type of stuff, but there's still a lot on the table that I, you know, still have to come up with and figure out. So I appreciate everyone, and if you ever need anything, you know, always reach out to me on Instagram, leave a comment here, Facebook, email, whatever you need. I'm gonna do my best to help you guys out. If you have any questions, sometimes information can be limited, so it's very important to have, you know, someone that you can open up to and ask whatever you need to ask and get useful information. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. But I just wanted to say thanks to every single person that watches these. I really appreciate you.